also really loved the first few talks that we had today, and I feel like I would have changed my presentation based on things that I've already thought of from the last three speakers. But I only have 20 minutes, and I could probably speak about this topic for 2 hours. So I'm going to kind of go through the slides, which are really just background for me to talk to you all about this topic. So when we came up with the title, Can Traditional Media Get Social? I initially was thinking of the first get, but then I started thinking, well, there's a dual meaning to that. Can we become social, but can we also understand social? And that's sort of the spot that we're in right now at Gannett. And if you're not familiar with Gannett, we own USA Today. We also have, as Ramon said, over 80 plus newspapers and 20 some odd TV stations across the U.S. Also a lot of digital media companies as well. But today we're specifically going to be talking about the newspapers and the TV stations. This is what it looks like in my newsroom. Just kidding. It's not true. I'm sure it did at some point, but times have changed, and it's really been a challenge for traditional media, I think, to become more social. There's a video. I don't know if this is actually going to work, and I'm not going to show the whole thing. And you've probably there are some changes that media industry has to look at when thinking about social media. One is that in the past it had always been a one-way broadcast where we were the experts and we were telling you the news. And now that's not, we're still the experts in some sense, but a lot of you are the experts too. And so we've had to turn that into more of a dialogue, which a lot of traditional journalists are not as comfortable with. The other thing is deadlines. We used to have these deadlines where you put the newspaper to rest in the evening and then you started on the next day's news, and now everything is real time. And I want to kind of share with you throughout the presentation some anecdotes and ways that we're finding we need to change. There's one story that came out of Tennessee. It's over a year ago now, but when Steve McNair was found dead, I don't know how many of you remember that, it was over a July 4th holiday weekend. And I was on Twitter, as I'm on occasionally, and I saw somebody, I saw a bunch of tweets about how he was found dead and was he murdered and what was happening. Then I saw a tweet from someone that said, just went to the Tennessean's website, no mention of Steve McNair, they must be asleep over this holiday weekend. So I called the news editor in Tennessee, at the Tennessean in Nashville. I said, what's going on? He said, I've been on hold with the police, like waiting to confirm this. And so that right there really is at the crux of some of what we've had to learn. You don't want us to report until it's confirmed. I mean, you want us to have the verified facts. That's what the traditional media is known for. But at the same time, you want everything instantly. And there's a lot of research that goes behind that, the verification process, getting all of our facts. And so I talked to our newsrooms about maybe putting on the web, we are aware of a breaking news situation, or even take you through the steps. We are on hold with the police. We are trying to verify facts. Because now everybody really wants this real-time answer and this real-time feedback, which is just not the way that media has worked previously. So it's been an interesting change for us. So what are we doing well? Well, some might argue not that much. I would say we're doing a lot of things really well. I have a few screenshots from some of our sites, but one of the things that we are doing well is engaging with our communities, asking them on Facebook and Twitter, using them as sources. This particular Facebook post from our Atlanta TV station just basically saying they were going to be writing a story on a report that someone had done, and what are your thoughts on this? And they have tons of feedback. They'll get 60, 70, 100 comments, all real comments, not spam, not some of your typical Facebook type posts that you might see, but real people wanting to be involved in the story and helping them. We have a lot of really good engagement when we do that kind of reporting. This is USA Today did upload your best spring photos and created sort of a UGC photo gallery on one of their fan pages. We get a lot of good UGC when we ask for it. We're getting better at asking for it. Last weekend, when was the hurricane? Last weekend? 2 weekends ago? That was a bit of a struggle. We have lots of properties up and down the East Coast. We ran through the same thing with the oil spill. We have many news organizations in the Gulf Coast is asking for user-generated content from our readers, our viewers, and saying, hey, you've got photos, share them with us. People are sharing them on their Facebook pages and uploading them to Flickr and to Instagram. And one question I ask is, well, can we, instead of asking them to send it to us, can we just sort of curate it from where they're sharing it naturally? So that's sort of a change now that we're looking at doing. People are willing to share that with their friends in their social networks and publicly put that out on the web. So we need to do a better job in curating and telling the story using that social information that's out there. So you can see here WKYC asking for weather photos, and up top, one thing I really like, this is another one of our TV stations, I don't know if you can read it, but it says, WLTX's Jennifer Bellamy's fire alarm went off in her apartment complex yesterday. Her first reaction was to grab her dearest belongings. If this were you, what 3 items would you grab during an emergency? So that's just not the way that you think of traditional media using Facebook and Twitter. It isn't just about pushing our headlines. Sometimes we're just talking to our communities and asking them questions, and that works out really well. And here's another one, USA Today on Facebook, asking for feedback, and they get quite a lot of responses. Now, over, I'd say, the past 2 years, we haven't put that much of a focus on Facebook, but we're starting to, we're a little bit behind, I'd say, for USA Today anyway, in trying to get more engagement on Facebook, but we're growing. We're working on creating apps on Facebook and looking at ways to tie into the Facebook community. But taking that a step further, when you have developers that can look at the open graph, you know what people like. So can we start to customize your news experience on our websites? Create sort of a news for you where you go to the website and it says, based on the things you've liked, here's some content that might be interesting to you. So getting away from that, you fill out and sort of I Google, my Yahoo, where you make your own news, but rather the information you've already shared on Facebook. You all have liked lots of things. You maybe liked the Indianapolis Colts. You maybe liked, you maybe liked the Red Cross and are interested in causes. So can we start to customize the experience on our news sites to give you content that's a little bit more relevant to you based on what you're liking on social networks? So I'm not going to criticize anybody, but this is a screenshot of the Huffington Post, and they have a lot of success with referrals from social media, and that may just be based on the type of content that they're producing, but I don't know if this has a laser light on it. Yay. Okay, so those of you watching live stream, I don't know if you can see it, but here's the original, like, share, etc. Then over here you can follow them, like them, share them. Then up here you can like and tweet or follow the page. And over here it's news from your network, news from your Facebook friends, news from Twitter. Then here's a little Twitter box. Here's some sharing buttons. I don't know if you're getting where I'm going with this, but that's a little overwhelming to me. And so we're trying to figure out what's the best way of giving you as many outlets to share that content, but not be overwhelmed with something like this. Now, they do get a lot of clicks on these links, though, so maybe this is the right way to go. But I personally, I think it's a little overwhelming, and so we're trying to sort of balance and figure out, what's the best way to go about that. So where do we go from here? So this is Instagram. The Detroit Free Press actually uses Instagram, and they do an amazing job. They, with Instagram, if you're familiar with it, it's an iPhone app. It's not on other platforms right now, but I think it will be soon. And you have nice filters, and you take really nice photos with your iPhones now. And some of their photographers probably resent the fact that they have all this equipment and they go out and do these amazing photo shoots, and then somebody could just with their iPhone take and tell just as awesome a story. And so now our reporters and photographers are going out and they're putting photos up on Instagram and telling stories with these photos. I think NPR, which is not one of ours, but they also use Instagram. So looking at other ways of getting that content out. This is a Tumblr blog in Rochester, our Rochester Democratic Chronicle created, where they feature photography. So obviously when the photographers do go out and take photos at an event or around town, there are a lot that don't make it into the paper or onto the website, and so now they're figuring out a way to take some of those, not really outtakes, just the ones that weren't exactly right for their story, and put them up on a Tumblr blog. Other ways of getting that content out there, and so that's another way that we're trying to be more social. This is an app on Facebook. It's the HTML5 app, so you can, if you didn't know, you can get your USA Today complete content within Facebook if you don't want to ever go to usatoday.com. It works really well. Your little snapshots area down here, you can click on and take polls and see all the snapshots, so that's another way we're attempting to become a little bit more social. But going even further, where we're not yet, how many of you use Flipboard? Yeah. And what about Zeit? It's a little lesser known. So CNN just bought Zeit. But Flipboard and Zeit, these are ways that basically customize the news experience based on various things that you do on the social web. With Flipboard, it's using your Facebook, your Twitter, your Google Reader. Zeit, I think, is primarily using your Google Reader, although it might also now tie in with Twitter and Facebook. But it customizes the news for you in a really nice, compelling way. So when you're on Facebook and on Twitter, a certain percent, I want to say, I may be making this up, 80% of the things on Twitter are links that people are sharing to other content. What Flipboard and Zeit does is make those links actually be news items that you can click on and display, and in some cases without any advertising, which has pros and cons, obviously, for us. But creating these more engaging news experiences than our existing websites that you go to and kind of overwhelmed with advertising right now, and not necessarily in the most user-friendly way. I'm sure you all know exactly what I'm talking about. And this is another thing. This is just something I was playing around with, Paperly. How many are familiar with Paperly? I'm not quite sure if it's working yet, but because Gannett has so many news outlets, I created a couple Paperly newspapers, one for just the news and one for the sports, pulling in feeds from all of Gannett's various Twitter accounts. And so this is the Gannett Sports Daily, and we tweet this out once a day, and it pulls in all the news or sports stories from all of Gannett's papers and TV stations. So kind of trying to figure out other ways, again, of getting our content out there. So I want to just take a side step and talk about some of the tools that our journalists are using. So I mentioned Instagram, but there's a really interesting story, something that I never would have thought of trying, but there was a shooting in a building in Maryland last year, and our DC TV station was trying to find the sources. So what they did was they looked on Foursquare to see who had checked in at that building that day. And through Foursquare, they found the Facebook profile and sent somebody a Facebook message saying, "It looks like you might be in this building. Are you? And if so, can you call us? We'll put you on air. We want to hear." And within 5 minutes, they got a call from someone inside the building who they then used as a source and told the story of what was going on. I would never have thought of doing that. And it's taking that journalistic trying to find the sources thing that used to take a lot of research and going out and then the feed, and now really using the social tools to figure that out. I'm fascinated. That's just one example, but they're doing more and more of this across the board. I had another example I wanted to share, and now I can't think of it, and I didn't have it in my notes. So how far can we go with this is really the question. What experiences make sense in social and news? Traditional journalists really kind of walk a thin line. They don't want to go too far with social, and yet they want to use the tools and be out there where people are. How many of you get your news through social media primarily? Right. So I mentioned the hurricane a little while ago. With the hurricane, a few people told me afterwards that our hurricane feed, which we actually had a Facebook page called Hurricane Irene, and we had our reporters up and down the East Coast and USA Today sending us content that we were sharing on there. And some people said that was actually their primary source of news, because with a breaking news situation, they don't need the whole deep, in-depth information. The little quick blurbs that they were getting, oh, the Tappan Zee Bridge is closed, okay, I needed to know that. Oh, this is happening here, or the flood has happened there. They don't need the whole really deep story at that moment. They want that afterwards. And I think that's really where we've tried to find our main niche is get the news out there as quickly as possible, accurately as possible, and then have a place to go back to provide the context to that story. And that's really, I think, hopefully what you all want from that. So I think that's it. I went very quickly because normally I run long and I usually have Q&A, but let's try the video now. So, thank you, everybody.
That's a speaker's dream, to walk off the stage with everyone just happy and memorable, and you did a great job.